Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Nagashri from Women in Cleantech and Sustainability. We're super excited to welcome you all to the Founder Series. And today, if we will kick off with a brief introduction of WCS and the Entrepreneurship Committee, and then we'll hand it over to our speaker today, Kirin, Kalia. Next slide, Barbara. So some of you have attended the previous session on fundraising and cap tables. This introduction is for those who are joining us new. We are Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability, and we are here to support women in this industry and are based on four pillars of driving parity for women within the clean tech and sustainability field. We also are working tirelessly to help provide a platform for women to network and connect, as well as become thought leaders in this space and share our ideas and vision here. So Entrepreneurship Committee is a subset of Women in Clean Tech. Here we support women entrepreneurs and help encourage women founders and inventors to drive clean tech for solutions to the market. We hosted a pitch competition back in SF Climate Week in April and heard from a ton of you that you want a forum like this where you would hear from experts as well as meet your fellow founders. And lo and behold, we've crafted this series for you. So I'm super excited to bring this series to you. Next slide, Barbara. Yeah, so in terms of the program overview, a lot of you who have signed, the main goal of this to give you hands-on workshop on topics like storytelling, leadership, fundamentals of fundraising, and such. The format of this is a 6 weeks series with a workshop either on a Wednesday or a Thursday, followed with an office hour on a Friday. In the workshop, the speaker, the expert will come in and talk about the topic. And then on Friday, you can come in and ask, personalized questions to the expert and also, meet each other and provide insights from your own journey to fellow women entrepreneurs. Next slide. So in terms of where we are in this program, we've already finished the fundraiser cap table by Elena. And for those who haven't been able to attend it, we have the YouTube recording ready, and we will share the links with you all if you haven't had it. Today we have Kirin, Kalia, and I will let her introduce herself as we go through this. But today she will be talking about storytelling and personal branding. And then, as you can see on the slide, there are a few more workshops to be culminated with a happy hour. And there's a slight type of change there. We're having a hiccup with the October 23rd on the event, and we will have to move it to October 24th. And I'll keep you guys informed about that. But it will be in person in San Francisco. Next slide, Barbara. So our fantastic speakers here, as you can see, the one thing common about all of these amazing women here is that not only have they had a full corporate career, but they all have started their own entrepreneurship journey. And in this journey, they are supporting women entrepreneurs to help, scale their business as well as find their story. So I'm super excited to bring these speakers to you. Next slide, Barbara. And with that, I would like to introduce myself. I am Nagashri Manwatkar. I'm a board member at Women in Clean Tech. I am also the chair of the Entrepreneurship Committee. I am the founder of Gaia Force. It's a nonprofit that is focused on upskilling climate professionals to climate jobs. I embarked on this more recently. I have a full career of 15 years in clean tech. The first, decade was focused on building green buildings, and more recently, I was with Tesla in business and operations, helping scale their solar roof and Powerwall business. And I'm super excited to be part of WCS as well as this entrepreneurship committee. With that, I will hand over to Kirin, our speaker, and let her introduce herself. Thank you so much, Kirin.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nagashri. Such an honor to be here. I met Elena earlier this year, actually through a client of mine who is a woman in the clean tech and sustainability space. So I really feel like we've come full circle here. This is amazing. I love to help all founders, the ones who deserve to be getting the most money and getting the customers and growing amazing businesses that make all of our lives better. And so I'm so glad you all are here. You came because, as I heard, you've been in situations where you want to show up with better stories and with more confidence, and that's what we're going to be working on today. I'm calling this storytelling to create persuasive pitches and personal brand, pulling those things together. So I'll give a quick intro of myself as we're getting started here. So why should you listen to me? A couple of things. First is that I've been doing communications for over 25 years in various ways. One of those is, go to the next point, I've coached over 1,000 founders globally. This is across investor events, it's across corporate innovation events, and literally everyone runs into the same stuff. And so that's what I'm bringing to you guys. I've also been within a B2B SaaS business for several years on the marketing side. I was a tech and business journalist twice. The .com era way back in the late 90s, as well as more recently. That's why I moved to Los Angeles about 14 years ago now. And I love giving back. I'm a mentor for several programs, including as an all-star mentor for Techstars, which is an amazing honor and I don't take lightly. I've also supported Founders Boost here in Los Angeles, Mass Challenge FinTech, and several others. So I bring everything I've learned to help you guys today. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. So what actually we're going to cover today, a couple of things. The first thing is going to be the mistakes that I see most founders make when pitching investors and customers. This is not unique to clean tech. It is across everyone. Definitions of everything that we're talking about. Don't want to take anything for granted. Don't want to assume anybody knows things. And then how you're going to actually start putting this stuff together. We're also going to look at some examples of how this stuff works. Both on the investor side and the sales side. And then we're going to go into the personal branding with an example there from the clean tech world. I've done my best to give this the feeling for you guys, but there are going to be some things that are not clean tech specific, just as a heads up. Okay, cool. So the top two mistakes, these are things I see over and over again. Number one, if we go to the next slide, is too much detail on a problem, on your product, on your technology. And this is because we love what we build, totally understand that. The problem is that most people don't know what we know and they don't live in our worlds. And so if you assume that somebody is geeking out on your particular part of clean tech the way you do every single day, they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand the words that you're using. They're not going to care also about some of those details that you probably are very eager to share. And I've seen this with people in legal tech, in ed tech, in health tech, in fintech. I've worked with so many founders and everyone does this. It's totally normal, but I just want to call it out so you all are aware of it. And we're going to work on ways to change this. The second thing I see is that most people are actually ignoring human psychology. And if there's one thing I wish I had studied in college, it's psychology. This is the thing that has come back to me over and over again in my own entrepreneurship journey, looking back at my own career. People are motivated very much by their own interests. And that's absolutely critical for you to keep in mind as a founder. Like, there's no reason that you can't connect with anybody once you start to understand certain things about what moves people to be interested and what moves them to take action. So please don't ignore human psychology. And I am not an expert in this. I'm just going to share what I have learned so far. There's a whole huge rabbit hole you can probably go down, but just know that most of us aren't thinking about it. Your job in any situation, that could be somebody who you happen to meet just in that classic elevator pitch situation, is to persuade them if they give you the opportunity and not info dump them. That's basically what I'm saying with those first couple of mistakes. It's really easy to info dump and not persuade. And I want to flip that for you guys. Okay, next slide. Any investor or sales pitch is actually, the next point here, is just enough information in a story so that they can say yes or no to the next step. The situation where you meet somebody and they agree to invest, that is probably a Hollywood fantasy of some kind. Rarely would you find that, maybe occasionally with certain angels, but most people are going to want to take a conversation to the next level, which usually involving other people. It might mean they start to do some due diligence or anything like that. You want to move to the next step with them. And a story is going to be what helps you make that persuasive and less info heavy approach to that person, who make it easy for them to decide. Okay. Next thing is, of course, now we've talked about storytelling and pitches and all that stuff. I just want to make sure, like I said, level set. So first thing is the pitch itself. Everyone is being pitched all the time. It's an attempt to persuade. You're walking into a grocery store, you see beautiful food that's there for you, and it's there for your consideration. We are all doing this all the time. You might be trying to persuade a family member on where you want to go on your next vacation. You might be showing them beautiful brochures. So what is storytelling? It's very simply a couple of things. It's how humans make sense of the world. It's the information that helps us survive and thrive. And it basically leaves out what the brain doesn't need. So let me just pause here for a second, because we very often think of storytelling in that, sort of Hollywood thriller sort of way, or our favorite novels. And if you think about it, that's also what they are doing. We as business people, as entrepreneurs, are doing something similar. It doesn't always have maybe the same level of urgency, but we can build some of that in. It may not always seem as emotional, but we can build some of that in, so that we get that sort of reptilian brain on the other side to pay more attention, be more excited, and to be more likely to remember us. So we're also going to make sure that we're doing all this, and we'll come back to this again. This won't be the last time you see the slide. Okay, next one. What is a story? Again, probably have lots of ideas about it. I got my definition from somewhere else. Stories about how we, rather than the world around us, change. They grab us only when they allow us to experience how it would feel to navigate the plot. It's an internal journey, not an external one. So like I said, this is about the human psychology part of it too. Everybody wants to be the main character in the story. So anytime you're sharing about what you are building, that person, whether you realize it or not, is trying to put themselves in it in some fashion. And you want to make it easier for them to do that. So this is, of course, why we like stories that speak to us, whether they're the ones that we read, the ones that we watch, the ones we listen to. You are tapping into the exact same thing. And Lisa Cron, by the way, is an amazing woman. She has mostly focused on the entertainment industry, but I absolutely recommend her book if you have not seen it or read it. Okay. What are you actually doing as a founder in the clean tech space? Why you started your company is a really, really common one. You are also probably talking about the problem, and this is part of storytelling. There's always something at stake. There's a conflict, there's consequences, and then ultimately what the world looks like when you are succeeding. That is the resolution, right? Every story has a beginning, middle, and end. That's essentially what you are doing all the time as a founder yourself, whether you realize it or not. And if this is sort of like, whoa, sort of moment, great. If not, we're going to get into how you start to put some of this stuff together. Okay, next slide. And I just want to bring it back to the people that most of you are probably speaking to. They are usually investors and customers. And as a quick reminder, they are human. They are not just some, avatar. They are people who need some understanding before they can do the other thing, which is get inspired and excited. And so every pitch is going to come down to this. I have said this to so many founders. If people don't understand the basic premise of what you do and why they should care, they're not going to get excited. It just doesn't happen. And you can tell the difference. You've probably been in those situations where you see the person on the other side is kind of like, maybe like head to the side, or like looking skeptical. The arms start to be crossed or leaning back. That's different than somebody who's excited, who's leaning forward and like can't wait to ask you a question. That's what I want for everyone. And that happens when you start to realize that people need something different maybe than what you thought they did. A little bit more about them. They also have limits. This is pretty common for most humans, but just as a reminder, they generally don't have much time, and they generally don't have much attention. Especially investors who are hearing pitches all the time. I'm sure Elena, if you saw her session last week, probably hinted at this if she didn't call it out. They're literally getting pitched all the time, and they don't have much time, and they're very likely to dismiss before they even hear more than 15 to 20 seconds. That's why you really got to grab people early on. Okay, next slide. Pitch matters because it's a funnel. It is the top of your funnel. It is, if you spent any time in sales and marketing, this looks familiar to you. If not, it's really basic. Everybody's running a funnel, and the investors and customers are using it to determine whether it's a fit for their goals, that pitch, right? So that's that very top attention level. It might be the interest level, but then they're going to make a decision and they're going to take an action. And you want to make sure that you get the best chance of continuing down that funnel. And by the way, before we move on, there is a funnel that you are usually running as well. You want your customers, of course, to eventually convert, right? You want that investor to convert to a check. So you may lose them because they choose to opt out, but you also, by the way, might decide somebody's not a fit. That customer actually isn't in your ideal customer profile, your ICP. That investor, maybe you got some bad vibes. Totally fine. They don't need to be on your cap table. You take them out of your funnel as well. So funnels work both ways. Okay, next slide. In other words, as I like to say, everyone's question is always, what's in it for me? And there it is. What's in it for me? And what's in it for me is, like I said, the thing that everybody is asking, whether you realize it or not. That's the 30-second conversation that you might have at a networking event. That might be the thing that somebody is thinking as you start a formal pitch on a stage. That might be the thing that they're thinking about when they decide to listen to, something you said on a podcast, whatever. Like, they're always looking for that. And when you keep that in mind, it's going to put you in a very different place as a storyteller for your business. Okay, next slide. And the reason why we want to tie both these things together, the story and the pitch, is for a couple of things. You already have a founding story. Like, there is a story whether you've been articulating it and sharing it or not. Long before there's a product, everyone has that. And when you do it right, these things actually flow really, really well together. And I know that from experience in coaching several women who are part of a program called She's Next at Visa, the company that's on your credit debit card runs. Everybody has to tell an entrepreneurship story as part of the criteria of their pitch. And it's beautiful how it usually leads into the larger problem that they're solving. And then you become memorable for the right reasons. I am all about making sure you take up space in somebody's head. You're not just sort of there for that 30 seconds that they maybe heard you, or those 4 minutes or 5 minutes on a stage. Look, it's really easy to forget things and people when they're not memorable. But if there's somebody who stands out, it's usually because there's something that gripped you here, not just here. And so your personal stories and what's at stake with what you're building, which in clean tech is very, very easy to articulate for most things. We know that the stakes are really high and real. That's why I want you to do it. I want you to be memorable for the right reasons. Next slide. So how? That's always say, okay, great. Now we know all that. How are we actually going to do this? It's a couple of steps. So we'll start from the very beginning, which might not be the one you expect. So just very, very large picture is a pitch structure. So you've already heard me say stories have beginning, middles, and end. Well, guess what? Any kind of pitch that you're doing has a beginning, middle, and end as well. There's a hook. That's the thing that's going to grab that attention. You can have what I call a meaty middle, which is all the sort of good stuff in the middle. And then you always want to finish strong. This is just like any other marketing thing that you might do or that you have done in the past. You always want to be clear what you want someone to do when they have heard you speak or when they have finished reading your email. What you're going to do from here is first check in with yourself. And I say this because so many of us don't often take the time to realize what might be underneath some of the things that we are doing or thinking. And it's very easy to have beliefs about investors or customers or being an entrepreneur or being a woman in an industry that's male dominated, how many women get funding versus men. Those things all might be true, but I want you to go into any kind of process with the belief that's going to help you, that's going to support you, empower you. So a belief that's empowering is that the world needs this solution and I am the right person to build it and I am going to do whatever it takes to get it out there. Like, I am absolutely capable of doing whatever it takes to get out there. Like, that is something I would encourage you to believe. And there's tons of ways you can do this, but I do want you to check in with yourself first. Second step, next slide, is going to be knowing your objectives. And this seems maybe kind of obvious, but it's always worth reminding. Anytime you're going into any situation, that's an event, that's a meeting, you want to know two things. You want to know what your actual outcomes are. If you hit next, you'll get that button there. Your business outcomes. So maybe you want that next call also, right? You know that you want the yes, and you know that that next step is going to look like a call. That next step is going to look like bringing in the partner from the firm. That next step might be that you are doing a demo with that customer to show them the product or something like that. So always know your objectives before you go in. Third step, next slide, is to know your audience. You've heard me kind of hint at this a few times. Very, very basic. What do they care about? And again, on the other side of that is what's in it for them. It's not about you. It's kind of weird. Like, look, I'm doing a session for you guys. I also know some of this isn't about me. You came here because you want something. Like, there's a reason you gave up your time. And as an entrepreneur, your time is incredibly valuable. I don't want to waste a single minute of it. What you care about is getting something you can actually take action on. That's why I've designed the presentation this way. But you're doing the same thing when you speak to somebody. What do they care about? What's in it for them? If you're coming from that place, it's going to be a lot more effective. Step 4, go to the next slide. Know your requirements. This is also again maybe kind of obvious. Time limits. Sometimes you only have, a few seconds of somebody's attention because of a party or something like that. Sometimes you have a formal 20-minute meeting. What are the expectations also that that person has from the time that you're spending together? Maybe they don't, at a cocktail party, they definitely don't want the full version. Oh my gosh, please don't do this. My old founder, bless his heart, would actually show up to meetings with a laptop ready to open it and give demos to people. And a colleague of mine had to tell him, like, dude, put that away. Nobody wants to see that here. Like, he was just so eager to share. And it's like, that's not the expectation of what we're here for. You might have a conversation about your business, but nobody needs a full on demo. For instance, the 20-minute meeting, or like sometimes angels only give like 10 to 15 minutes if you're in front of an angel group. Don't talk the whole time because their expectation is that they get to ask questions. And if you spend the entire time talking, and believe me, I've spoken to the people who run angel groups, this happens, 15 minutes are up and they're like, thank you. That is not an investment. They didn't get to ask anything that they were curious about. So know the time limit and know the expectations of the other side. Okay. Next one is step 5. You heard me say this kind of before. What are they going to remember and retell? They're going to remember a story. And your job is to give them that story somehow to make sense of the world, some information that's going to help them, and it's going to leave out a bunch of other stuff. And stories can be short because they have to be, also because that's the attention span that somebody has or the amount of time that you have. Sometimes you have time for more details, sometimes not. Sometimes they don't need it, right? What does that person actually need on the other side to make a decision? If they're getting to know you better, maybe you add some more of those personal details. But if it's a competition where you only have a few minutes on stage, some of that stuff is going to be left out, and that's okay too. There's always going to be a way to make sure that you have a story that's going to serve you and the audience that's in front of you. Next slide is last step here is to iterate just like product. Nobody's pitch is ever done. So you're going to get feedback from friendlies. Does this resonate? Look, you have an incredible group right here. These are other founders who can give you feedback. You're going to test it. Hopefully, maybe you're going to introduce yourself in a different way or talk about your company a different way. You can do that in emails or at events, just going up and introducing yourself. Believe me, I have done this too. There's all sorts of ways I can introduce myself and what I do. So I would love for you to come at it just like you do product. We're going to test and learn. And the last thing, of course, here is there's one more point. Oh, you're going to refine it, by the way. Was there a third point? Maybe we missed that one. It's okay. Go on to the next slide. Quick note about AI, because it's really tempting to use it for a lot of the stuff that you might be doing that's related to your storytelling and how you're putting yourself out there. I absolutely encourage you to use it as a starting place. Nobody likes a blank sheet of paper. Is it there to help you also maybe refine some of the thoughts you've already gotten down? Great. Should it be doing everything? No. And the reason is you're going to sound like everybody else. It's going to lose your essence, your humanity. And my whole thing is for the founders to show up as the human beings they are, to connect with the human beings on the other side. Investors might wear Patagonia vests, but I swear there's heartbeats under there, right? Especially the dudes. They're actually human beings. They have families, they have lives, they've had struggles, they have problems. And so I want you to connect with them. And if your human essence is missing from anything that you're doing, the way you're showing up, the way your written materials come across, it's not going to work in the same way. So AI to help, but not everything. Okay, next slide. And then I have a couple examples for you. No, just as a quick note, this is not a Cleantech example, but this is a real life. This was actually a pitch last December at Techstars LA demo day. This was a founder I was lead mentor for, by the way. And he was so busy selling that he didn't have time to prep. So they only allowed him on stage for 30 seconds. So we're going to go through his script because I actually took video of his entire pitch. I'm happy to share that afterwards. So we're going to review his script. The next point is we're going to identify the 3 acts that we talked about earlier. And then we're going to ask, was this the right audience for this thing? And then what are you actually going to remember from the pitch that Alex gave at demo day last year? Okay, so we'll go, and this is a little bit long, but I'm going to read it to you guys, or you can read it for yourselves. He said, we are building payment rails for merchants commonly purchased as high risk. On average, we're able to save merchants between 30 and 40% on per transaction rates. Since we launched this year, we're quickly approaching 1 billion in volume. And as of this week, we actually started to sign a customer that will bring about 8 billion in volume to our rails next year, representing over 50 million in revenue. So if you're curious about how we're attacking a $2 trillion payments problem in the US, or just keen to nerd out on payments infrastructure, find me after this. We'd love to connect. Thank you. That was the entire pitch. And I will tell you, I saw a VC make a beeline for him when he was done, when everything was done. So let's break it down. Next slide. He actually did the 3 acts. He had a hook, not super compelling, but very straightforward. Payment rails for merchants commonly purchased as high risk. In case you're wondering, this is things like adult content. This can be alcohol. This can be other kinds of things that are generally not going to be traditionally accepted on your normal Visa, MasterCard kind of payments, right? These are folks who have to generally pay really high rates to get any kind of transactions. So, okay, got that. And what they're doing. Then he did have a median middle. What's actually happening with the business about the traction that they're getting, right? They're actually going to have over 50 million in revenue because of this one particular customer. And he does have a strong finish. He has a really clear call to action. Curious about how we're attacking a $2 trillion payments problem. So he didn't do this whole Tam Sam Sam thing. He just said it's a $2 trillion payments problem. Or you want to nerd out because he's a payments nerd. Like I said, it's not Cleantech, but just go with me here. Find me after this. We'd love to connect. And like I said, that's exactly what this VC did. I saw her make a beeline for him because she's in the B2B space. They have a commerce focus, like no question, this is somebody she wanted to talk to. She knew enough to make that decision. It was a yes for her, right? So if you are curious, you can go back and find Alex and his company if you're curious. So is this something you could retell? This is a little bit trickier, but I found a couple points you could probably find. So one being that these are payment rails for merchants commonly purchased as high risk. Cool. All right. So that's something I could probably remember, though. If he'd said what it is, it might have helped. But I also know he wasn't doing it because he didn't want anyone to get skeeved out. I think it's really interesting that they've already signed a customer that's going to bring a lot of money through their system. That's going to be 50 million in revenue. That's something I'd probably remember, is that he's already on track to do 50 million in revenue, and it's a $2 trillion payments problem. Like, wow, like I didn't realize it was that big, these kind of merchants. So it can work in as little as 30 seconds. That's what I would show you guys here. The next slide. Is a different one. This is the Warby Parker founding story, not Cleantech, but something you guys probably all well know. And this is actually taken from their website. This is on their website. This is their own founding story, and it also follows the same structure. So if you hit next, we'll see the first point is actually the event. Our founders were students when one of them lost his glasses on a backpacking trip. That's how this whole company started, right? And the cost was really high to replace. So then they realized that others were having this problem. That's the conflict and the consequences. And the eyewear industry is actually dominated by a single company. The resolution was to start Warby Parker, right? A different way to, design and get glasses. And by the way, there is also a sales message in here. We're not talking about that so much today, but this is sort of the underlying thing of everything that they do, which is that buying glasses should be easy and fun, right? Everything that they put out there is going to come back to buying glasses should be easy and fun. And that is also the same structure that you can do when you're telling your story to a potential customer or to an investor. Next slide.
Hey, Kirin,
Yeah.
if I may, there's a
Yeah.
question specific
Okay.
asking about an example of a meaty middle for a business that is less accomplished and less established. If you could
Yes.
speak to that.
Yes. So
Thanks, Kiana.
yes, thanks for flagging that. So if your business is not as well developed as Alex of Frame Payments or Warby Parker, of course, there are other things in your business that you can point to. So you've probably already done a fair amount of validation, I would hope at least, of that you have a real need for this product and that you have people who are willing to pay for it. You might have talked to over 100 people, and what did your research find, or what did all those surveys reveal, or all those interviews with potential customers reveal? There's probably also some meat around the kinds of things that you're planning to launch. What is actually this product going to look like, and being able to give us a timeline of when it's going to be out there, and the momentum that you are building. You already maybe have, 100 beta testers. You might already have a waiting list. You might have something else like that. Just give me something that gives me the sense that there's something real here and that there's momentum. If you meet an investor and you're early and they tell you you're early, that's not a no. That means not yet. What it can be, if you play your cards right, is an invitation to build a relationship and stay in touch so that they can see your progress. Because you're early, okay, so you're planning to launch, let's say, in Q4. Maybe you send me an email update. Great, you launched in Q4. Wow, look how fast you grew in your first month and your second month and your third month. If you are sending updates like that, that also works to keep a relationship going when you're really, really early. But you want to show at the very beginning as much as you can that there's something real here and that there's something with momentum. Does that help? I don't know if you can get a thumbs up or down.
Yeah, thank you, Kirin.
Okay.
We can keep going.
All right, we can keep going. Excellent. All right. So let's continue. So just a quick recap pitch. Like I said, 3 things. It's a hook, it's a meaty middle, and it's a strong close with a call to action. A recap on the process, the 6 steps. The first one, check in with yourself, please. Make sure you got some beliefs that support you. Second, you're going to know your objectives. The third thing, you're going to know your audience. You are going to know your requirements. Lots of knowing you need to do. Then you're going to ask, what are they going to remember, retell? And you can actually start to build that backward. And then I want you to iterate. Like sometimes you think something's going to work and you put it out there and nobody gets it. Okay, time to go back to the drawing board, right? Like probably with the product, you've had the same thing. Woo. All right. Anything else before we move on? Let me make sure we got about 12 minutes to cover personal branding. All right, cool. Onward. Personal branding basics. This is something that could take up the entire time. So we're going to go through this pretty fast, and I would love your questions when we're done. Okay. Let's start with what actually a personal brand is. I chose this picture because this woman looked awesome. It is actually content that explains what you're all about to anyone considering working with or for you. And this is not from me, that's somebody else's. Jason E is somebody who helps people with their fundraising process. And he also point out, and I absolutely believe this is somebody who comes from a media background, it's also who you know, and it's any kind of media coverage that you're getting as the founder. So people telling your story on your behalf, but also the people you meet who are also becoming advocates for you when you're not in the room. They might say, I met this amazing woman and she's building what? Right? You have armed that person to share on your behalf. They're actually putting your personal brand out there on your behalf. And so you have an amazing opportunity here to build a brand when you do it with some intention. So the next thing is, of course, like, well, what is it not? Just to be clear, there's a couple of things. It's not generic. That's the first thing. It is not going to be commodified. So it's not the information that people are going to find everywhere else. It's not going to be just a one-off that you do, or maybe every 6 months or something. And it shouldn't be surface level only. And that's my take on it. And I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. The next slide. It's because your superpower is actually being vulnerable. And I have seen founders do this in incredible ways for all kinds of businesses. Founder who actually took in the Cleantech space, took my class earlier this year for Harvard alumni entrepreneurs. Her name is Heidi, and maybe some of you know her. She's here in LA, based studio. And when Heidi saw this, she realized that she could talk about her own experience of having to leave during a wildfire and how all the streetlights were out. It was literally complete darkness, no cell signals, nothing, and how frightening that was. And that's something that she experienced, but she can also put you back in that moment, in that storytelling. And it's so powerful. And when she realized the power of what she could do, it gave her a level to connect, ability to connect in a different way. So I encourage you to find what you're willing to share that's more personal, that can be part of your personal brand and part of your storytelling. Next slide. Why should you do any of this, by the way? Got four reasons. The first one is understanding and trust, right? People are going to want to work with you because they understand and they trust you. It's going to start attracting the right people because they now know who you are and what you stand for. It's going to open doors. Like you're constantly putting some great stuff out there. People are going to invite you to be on podcasts, to speak at events, and it's going to set you apart. So everybody's got competition, right? We all know this. Like, anyway, I found a founder who actually posted this not too long ago, and he said his top tip for startup founders is to build a personal brand sooner rather than later, with exactly the reasons that you would want, which is fundraising, customers, people want to work with you, your brand awareness is stronger. So don't take it from me, you can take it from a founder. This is all the same things that I said, but just packaged in a slightly different way, right? It's going to be incredibly beneficial for your business. Of course, it does take time, so it's not a light consideration. Next slide. How are you going to start finding your voice? So I have a couple questions here, all ones that you can answer in your own way and on your own time. What do you want to be known for? Next question, what matters to you and your company? What kind of person are you? Like, what would your friends say about you? What's your mission, your big vision? Like, what is the thing you want to change in the world? Like, what do you believe is important and true? And then what are your values in your life, business? Like, look, like the founder who I worked for, the one who was super eager with the like showing laptop at cocktail parties, was always very clear. No assholes in the business, no assholes on the cap table. Pretty straightforward. And that's how he did everything. And so I really respect that. And, there are lots of other things that were maybe not always great or whatever, like startup life, but like I always knew we weren't going to have assholes in the business or on the cap table, and we wouldn't tolerate them. So that's one example. Okay, next slide. I really want you to own your voice. And that means starting to find a way to consolidate all the answers that, go back and do that on your own time into what we can call a guiding premise. That's not my language. That's Jay Akunzo, who's really well-known marketing guy. He's worked at HubSpot and other places. And I actually coloring your understanding, the big idea you explore on your own and you own, and it's your perspective made memorable. There's that memorable thing again, right? So you want to have something in just a few words in plain English that somebody can really understand. And then I think it's super important to align that with all the things you're also putting out there to investors, to customers. All of this is going to work together to support you and your goals around getting more customers and getting money for the business, whatever it might look like, right? So really start to think about it. I will tell you that a guiding premise for me, I thought it was like, use plain English or something like that. I'm like, well, that's not really ownable in the same way. And I have mine, and you'll see it here at the end, but it's so important to really think through, and you'll know when it feels right and it's something that you can own. Next slide. Barbara, next slide. There you go. So remember we talked about this before. Storytelling is what exactly? So that's going to come back here. As you're starting to figure out how you want to talk about yourself and your business and what's important to you, you're going to be doing the storytelling, how you're going to help them make sense of it. You're going to allow people to sort of put themselves in it. It's going to be information that helps them survive and thrive, and it's going to leave out the stuff that people don't need. And stories are a great way to start any kind of post or any kind of conversation because it draws people in. People want to know what happens next. And by the way, you should always tell how the story ended. I've been in pitches sometimes. I was like, well, what happened to the customer? Did they get the outcome or not? Right. So just a small detail in storytelling, but you can do that with your personal brand. Absolutely. Just keep this framework in mind. Okay. Next slide. And this one as well, which is the stories that you are already telling, whether you realize it or not, or that you could be doing more intentionally, which is why you started the company, the problem that and Cleantech, so many problems, like with Heidi, who I talked about, like streetlights need to be able to resist all kinds of stuff like the fires, the electrical outages, whatever, and they still need to be there to guide people. There's really important consequences if the streetlights aren't working, right? And what the world looks like when Heidi succeeds is phenomenal. She's been doing work with Altadena to make sure that there's a better way to build resiliency in that community after the fires. Like huge stuff, like amazing. And I know she's building her personal brand as she does it. Next slide. So how to put it out there? How is always the question. Look, find the thing that works for you. I'm not going to be overly prescriptive here. Everybody's going to do something different, but do it consistently. For some people, that might be, once a week or once a month, or it's a newsletter, whatever it is. I want you to be patient because building a brand takes time, and you're probably going to need some help. It could be somebody who's already working on your team. There could be professionals out there. There's definitely people who specialize in helping people sort of figure out what that thing is and how to put it out there. Okay, next slide. I want to give you an example. This needs to be real. And this is actually a founder who I met through an event last year, and I've been following her ever since. And I'm extremely impressed with the way that she has been building her personal brand. Certainly welcome to follow her as well. And bonus is that she's in your space, Valkyrie. So her business is all about helping insurance companies figure out which homes they can actually write policies for and not lose money. With extra, data that they didn't have before. And so there's a lot of urgency around this. But she posed, first of all, as an expert, and this was just from a few weeks ago, she's nerding out on building codes in Florida, right? And she's breaking it down in a really simple way. What I've noticed about Valkyrie is that she takes complex things and she does know how to make them simple. That's really valuable. And she does it in a way that doesn't feel like you can't access it. So she makes it very accessible. She's, of course, also promoting. So she's doing New York Climate Week, right? Maybe you guys might even meet her there. These are a couple of events she's doing. Her attitude is always very open and welcoming, very accessible. She's an expert, right? And then the last thing, and I want you to pay attention to just that number there at the bottom, is that this had the most engagement of anything that she was doing that I saw recently. It was because it was vulnerable. Here was the person who she found to be an inspiration. This person has passed away in her field. And she happened to take a picture of them together last year. And she's sharing that here, right? And why this woman Tammy means something to her, to the industry, or the world that she's in. Like, that's what people love to share. You being a human. So I can almost guarantee you Valkyrie's not using AI to write posts like this, nor should she, because this comes from the heart. And that's what's going to get people to pay attention and how you're going to stand out. Okay, next slide. So really quick recap on everything we covered in personal branding in a few minutes. I want you to find your voice. Next, I want you to own that voice, your premise, right? What is that thing? I want you to choose the medium that's going to work for you. I want you to get it out there consistently in some fashion. You choose cadence, but stay in people's sort of space. And then I want you to, next point, number 5, is connection. Always, always, always. This is my premise. Human connection beats perfection every single time. I don't think you have to have the perfect deck. I don't think you have to have the perfect pitch, because humans are not perfect and we connect with other people when we feel something. And so that's what I want to leave you guys with today as we're wrapping up here. Next slide. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to take them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kirin.
Please connect.
If you ladies want to raise your hand and we can take one question at a time, please go ahead.
Be shy. We can do more of this tomorrow, but while it's fresh, let's do it now.
I see a hand raised by Christy. Christy, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question.
There. So I have a question. I notice that whenever I'm working on a pitch, and even if I have a deck with me, I'm very, very cautious and tentative about actually bringing the deck up. I'd much rather have the conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there a, and it feels like when I bring the deck up, there's like it just takes it out of like a comfortable cadence.
Yeah.
But I also kind of wonder, like when I'm working with somebody, you know, and I'm pitching them, like they're like, are they thinking in their head, like, where's your deck? So is there, what would be your recommendation on like how to make it, how to keep it authentic by also, you know, giving an investor what they're actually wanting to see?
Right. So that goes back to expectations. So different investors have different expectations of what a meeting is going to be like. To the extent that you can find out what those expectations are in advance, that will eliminate some of that weirdness. So for instance, I worked for somebody years ago and was running his angel meetings, and he was very clear, he put this out in his socials, that he did not ever want to see a deck. If you brought a deck to the meeting, the meeting was done. He only wanted to see live product demos. That's all he cared about. And so in his case, he would expect you to share a screen or to show, bring a laptop to an in-person meeting where he could see a demo, right? So some of these investors are more forthcoming than others about what they have said publicly about the way that they do things or what they're looking for. If you're having a conversation and they don't ask to see a deck, maybe you don't need it at that point. If it's a get to know you, if it's that first conversation, you could certainly ask, especially if there's something that you feel your deck can really show in a way that you can't just explain. Like you have some kind of chart that's going to show how your roadmap unfolds or something, for example. And like, you know what? I love the conversation you're having. Would you mind if I showed you something that's just going to make this a little clearer for both of us? You can ask for permission, so it's not weird. It doesn't feel like you're sort of switching gears on them unnecessarily. They're like, no. You can say that to me later. Maybe they say that. Great. Then you know. So see if you can figure out in advance. Otherwise, kind of go with the flow. But if you really feel like there's something that they should see, bring it up. Just ask. Does that help? Okay. Cool. Yeah, tricky stuff. I know. And especially when you have like good flow, you don't want to interrupt it either. Like, you want the next meeting. There's usually more than one. Almost always. So, cool.
Yeah, we have a question in the chat by Alejandra. Alejandra, do you want to be muted? And, you want to ask the question? This is a safe forum for you to do that.
Yeah.
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
You are slightly, like, if you can speak up or increase the volume.
Okay, apologies for that. So first off, thank you, Kirin. This is very insightful.
Alejandra, I might have to read out the question for you. If you want to try one more time, I'll give you a chance. Okay, no worries. I'll read out your question then. So Kirin, the question from Alejandra is that, thanks for the presentation, Kirin. I have a question. From an investor's perspective, vulnerability can come across in different ways, especially when the person across the table can relate to you during your initial pitch, cannot relate to you during your initial pitch. I don't want to make this gender-based, but men and women often interpret vulnerability differently. How would you craft your message so you don't appear weak? Oh my God, that's such an amazing question.
That is an incredibly insightful question, Alejandra. Thank you for asking. And this is true. This goes back to knowing your audience. So if you know that that person is going to have a hard time relating to you, you're probably going to come in with a different story. What I love to do is research before I speak to anyone. So if I know that that investor has a family member who could be affected. I might come at it from that way instead of from about me. It's very often people do want to know your founding story, and so you can share that in whatever way works for you. I generally want everyone to come from strength, not from a place of weakness, by the way. And so I think it's really important that you test it also. Like if you know that that doesn't work, then you shouldn't do it. I don't want you to do anything that doesn't work. I was amazed when I found out from she's an incredible founder. I got to know her through an accelerator program. She's doing so well now. Her whole company is not in clean tech, but it's custom fit shoes. And her name is Maeve, and the company's called Iambic, like Iambic pentameter. Go look it up. And Maeve early on was saying to investors that she had had a really hard time finding shoes that fit her. And so she had bought like literally like hundreds of pairs of shoes because just nothing would fit her quite right. What she found out was that they all thought she was a crazy shoe lady because that's what guys think. And I was like, oh my God, it hadn't even occurred to me that that could be an interpretation on the other side. So yeah, so that was not a story to use. If she was talking to a female investor, maybe that story would have landed differently. But she had to find a different way into the pitch in order to get it to land with the male audience. And by the way, I do think men are probably a large part of her consumer base of who are buying her custom sneakers. I'm sure women are too. So she has figured it out. So yeah, so use your vulnerability with your audience in mind. If you are on a stage, you have a mixed audience, it's really effective at drawing people in. But again, it needs to work. So there's an amazing founder from Techstars Healthcare a few years ago. And I know you guys are not healthcare, but Tara's story would make anybody pay attention. And healthcare is full of these kinds of stories. And so, you know, she built a platform to support family caregivers. And her opening pitch was around the fact that when she was 16, her dad had a heart attack and she became one of his caregivers. And when he passed away, she felt like it was her fault. And I know that from Tara. She did not want to tell a room full of strangers that her dad died. And I tell this story over and over again because it's so important to understand that you don't have to be a big personality or whatever, but that vulnerability really drew people in and made her very memorable for the right reasons. And she was in a female founder pitch competition when I heard it for the first time, but she also did it at Techstars Demo Day, which was a mixed crowd, more male than female. So it's going to depend a little bit on the audience. It's going to depend a little bit on how much you already know if something works or doesn't work, and testing and learning that part of it. So yeah, there's no one size fits all. I hope that helps. And yeah, we have all had audio issues. I hear you. More questions? Anything else?
Anyone else?
I'll jump in if
Shy.
nobody else has
Yes.
one. Hi, Kirin. Thank you so much. This has been really like helpful for me. I've always been struggling with the personal brand, and I've like gone through like a lot of different like motions to try to like continue to get better at it. And it's still something I'm working on.
Yeah.
And I feel like a part of it is like, so I'm the business co-founder. My brother, who's actually the technical co-founder, he's the one who came up with the core idea.
Right.
And so obviously, like I want to get your thoughts in terms of like telling the story through like maybe someone else where
Yeah.
like, that link between the company, personal story might be strong.
Yeah.
And then through that, my link to him and like
Right.
my journey through that, like just want to get your thoughts on like if that would work or like,
Yeah.
you know, how I would should try to even approach it.
Yeah. I think siblings are so interesting because of course you know each other from growing up together, usually, unless there's a huge age gap, which does happen. But the bond that you have, and there's some way that your brother's work inspired you to join him in building a business. Like there's probably a story there that you can own of your own. And I would encourage you to dig into that, because it was a mentor for Techstars, and in the USC program this spring, there was a really unusual combination. It was a mother and son. And I had not seen that before. I've seen lots of different founder combinations over the years. I've seen lots of married couples, but I had not seen a mother and a son. And she had been a medical school professor at USC. And this was her life's work, her stuff that she wanted to commercialize now. And her son, from the business background, really wanted to join his mom. He's like, I'm willing to like come sleep in the basement and like eat ramen and like do all the things so I can help people build this business. I believe so much in what you're doing. And it came from his own belief in his mother and her work. And he said it with that kind of authenticity. Now, she was ultimately the one who was on stage doing the pitch because she's the CEO. But he has a way to tell his story also. Like, why would he give up all this other stuff that he was doing to work with his mom and like, you know, sleep on the couch kind of a thing? And it was a very big why for him. So there's probably something there to dig into. And the technical and the business people need each other. You are sort of yin and yang or whatever. Like there's no business without the business. Like somebody can build something that's beautiful technology, but I'll be the first to tell you, and I know this from being in communications, build it and they come does not work. You're laughing, like you all know that. Like you have got to sell that thing in order to have a business, and people don't want to buy the thing, you don't have a business. So yeah, I would encourage you to find where your place is in there, and you know, maybe you and your brother do things together, maybe you do things alone. You will figure out also where that space is that works for you guys. But yeah, you can own your part of the story of how you came into the business.
Thank you. That's super helpful.
Okay, cool. Anyone else?
Hi, Kirin. I think Leslie here is asking for the name of the caregiver founder that you mentioned.
Yes, her name is Tara English.
Okay.
Let me just pull up. Give me a second. Oh, Tara, right now I don't have her.
Thank you. I happen to know a number of caregivers in
Oh,
trauma.
wow.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you guys, the work that so many of you do is important to people. Like bringing that human element into stuff. Like healthcare, like is such an obvious one. Like Tara was able to. I've heard so many health tech founders do it. But like I talked about Heidi also, like this ability to sort of share her own experience of why streetlights matter to her, and you know, I want you guys to do the same, to be memorable for that way. But yes, happy to share Tara. She's still working on Givers Health. I don't know what the current status of the business is, but she's still going as far as I know. She's amazing. And I also like to give a shout out to Tara, like I said, because she's not that big like personality. Like she's not the person who comes on stage and like, you know, feels like a tornado just swept in. Like she's opposite of that. And you use tremendous power from being quiet and serious as well, sort of drawing people in with a different energy. So awesome. Please support Tara.
Awesome, guys. Thank you all. We will wrap up with some information about WCS. And I want to thank Kirin a lot, you know, for this informative session. Kirin has asked that this session is a lot, so we will be providing YouTube of this event. So please go back and re-listen each of these, you know, and let it sink in as you know, find your own branding and storytelling. With that, I have some up and coming events that I'd like to announce. We have a walk and renew at Balboa camp for the San Diego Climate Week. We of course have a ton of the remaining founder in climate. We have a legal 101, we have a digital marketing, and then we have the building confidence and pitch and leadership. So please feel free to check out our events page. Next slide, Barbara. Yeah, and please, I encourage you to become a member of Women in Clean Tech and support us, and also, you know, come and participate with us. Members have great benefits to come and attend events and also, you know, be part of this larger community. So I encourage you to become a member. Next slide. There's also an opportunity to become a corporate member. I know a lot of you are in startups. We have a segment just for startup membership, and it's at a lower tier. But if you feel like if you know, sponsor some events or do, you know, support us in some ways, we will give you a spotlight. And so come and talk to me about startup membership. Next slide. We also have great merchandise. The female is future that you see, that great t-shirt, we have that. And if you want that or mugs from WCS, please feel free to check us out. Next slide. Also, I want to give a shout out. I haven't had a chance to list our volunteers here today, but a big shout out to Barbara here, who has showed up and, you know, is sharing the slide deck, as well as Lydia, who is helping produce the chat here. This goes to show you that we are a nonprofit that doesn't work without our volunteers. So please come and join us and volunteer and support us. And I also want to give a shout out to Evine, our coordinator, who relentlessly shows up and helps support us, as well as our marketing team, Marie-Kay and Natalia, who support us, you know, constantly. Next slide. Please find us on LinkedIn and Instagram and join our newsletter on our website. We'd love to engage with you in all of these formats. And then finally, I want to, end with WCS Entrepreneurship Committee. I'm the chair of the Entrepreneurship Committee and an entrepreneur myself. I am hugely committed to, supporting women in this. The one insight I want to bring you from the pitch competition is we had 6 VCs and we had 10 pitchers, and I spoke to all of them at the end of the pitch competition. The VCs said that it's a really tight playing field and that women typically find themselves in the bottom 50% of investment. So my effort and all our volunteers' effort here is to help make you guys, make you ladies rise to the top 50% of investment and, tell your story better. And so we're here to support you. We also heard that you want a forum, a network to speak to each other and connect with each other. This is exactly that forum. We have a Slack community. Feel free to reach out to each other and tell your stories, how you did it better, where you get stuck, and form that community. We are here to support that community. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending this event. And we have a few more workshops ahead. So if you haven't signed up, please sign up for the Legal 101, the digital marketing, as well as the confidence building, as well as the happy hour here in San Francisco. So thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.